The only thing we have to
Beer.
is
Beer.
itself.
Beer. So many choices.
Only no function beer well without.
Woohoo! Beer! Hello and welcome to another episode of Beer Busters. We're going to bring you the news and reviews of your favorite brews. My name is Dan Baker. I'm joined by my co-host and brewologist,
Steph Hefner.
and of course the demented and fermented
Wayne Baker.
So I wanted to, start top of the show and say once again thank you to you that are listening to this. As always, we appreciate that you're along for the ride with us. Now, we did mention in the past couple episodes that our release schedule's been in flux. I kind of want to expand on that a little bit because it has affected today's episode, and it's not a fault of, a guest we were supposed to have. Now, we all are aware of what happened the past year and a half, and that businesses were kind of getting by the skin of their teeth. And that definitely extends to the craft beer world and a lot of the people that we know and are friends with and come on the show. We were going to have a friend of the show, somebody we've had on before. We've seen at fests along the way and make some fantastic beers, but we weren't able to make the schedules line up because, well, they're short-staffed. And that is a thing that's happening pretty much all across the board in the service industry, especially independent places in the service industry. So this episode's just going to be the three of us. It's, hostful or guestless or, back to the basics from the very, 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 very beginning, however you want to look at it. No ill will, no hurt feelings or anything in regards to the guest that couldn't make it. But this could be how it's going to go for the next couple episodes until, life turns closer to normal compared to what it is now. So we may have a change in show format and formulas along the way, but we're going to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to find ways to make some relevant changes and pivot to make sure that you get stuff on time. And, hopefully you stick around. We like having you here.
Did you say the word pivot?
Pivot.
Did.
I feel like there's a glossary of terms from the last 2 years of our lives that we need to write down and burn and vow to never, ever, ever use again. And pivot is one of them.
So it's unprecedented.
Oh, yeah.
Uncertain.
I would kill for precedented times. Well, regardless of what happens with the show format, you can always follow along besides, your podcast feed that you're on now online. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We're at Beer Busters. Facebook, we're Beer Busters Podcast. There's beerbusterspodcast.com. Don't forget to add /shop. You can get yourself some cool branded merch, including masks, which I might actually order. Now that I'm back in the office, I need more than the 4 masks that I have, so I might order a couple.
Yeah. When I actually went back physically to work a few months ago, I realized how often I would be wearing a mask again, and I had to start actually washing it more regularly than I had been.
Yeah, exactly.
A little TMI, but it's the truth.
No, that's you got to wash them.
Yeah, I feel like I need a new mask design up there. I mentioned this in the last episode. There was a point a few months ago where I honestly thought nobody's going to buy masks anymore because before Delta and after vaccines, that seemed to be the way it was going. But obviously that hasn't happened. So mask demand is still out there.
Yeah, exactly.
beerbusterspodcast.com/shop. There's T-shirts too.
Yep, there's also T-shirts and all the other cool stuff. It's all designs made by Wayne, and they're all amazing. I'm so jealous of your artistic abilities.
Thanks.
So, of course, go there. There's youtube.com/beerbusterspodcast. You get to watch some cool videos that have been up for a while, and Wayne edits the Happy Fun Time games. There is patreon.com/beerbusters where you can get access to things like Last Call. And should we ever really be able to do in-person recordings again, you can get yourself invited to ones that are at the Beer Busters podcast basement, and other cool little perks.
There is also on Patreon, we haven't mentioned in a year and a half because we haven't done it, but the punishment videos. If you haven't checked them out and you are a patron, they are worth watching. There's some really good gems in there. There's some really good moments in some of them. I'm really happy with how most of those turned out, and it's a shame we had to stop because of COVID. But it's all still up there, so if you haven't checked it out yet, I would suggest. I mean, they're mostly pretty short. You could binge them pretty quickly. Yeah, check them out on Patreon. Our punishment videos. They're fun.
They're a lot of fun. And, as we mentioned last episode, we debuted our TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
You can find us on TikTok at Beer Busters.
I keep forgetting we have that.
I wish I could.
Ticking and talking.
Yep. I still don't know what I'm doing. Steph, you seem to have it down. But, hey, we're trying.
No, don't say that. I don't.
What the hell are you doing, Moo?
Moo's really crashing the podcast with a
really
vengeance
is.
tonight. She's usually a little more subtle about
She's
it.
allowed to. It's because I went to work this week. Shouldn't
But
I?
actually, I did want to say that it was immediately after you said just the three of us that Moo decided to jump up on my lap as if to say, no. I'm here too.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, Dana did not jump on Steph's lap to say the same thing, because Dana is here too.
Hello.
So yeah, follow along online. You get to see all the goodies and more than just what we have here audio wise. So we are drinking a beer.
We are.
We're drinking a very good beer. We are contractually obligated to start with a Pilsner.
We are.
We opened the Pilsner already. I believe that's what Wayne said.
We opened,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I said,
Oh,
are
I
we
thought
allowed to
you-
open the Pilsner now?
I thought you were asking if you could open the Pilsner now. I'm like, we already did. And we're
Well,
Yeah,
I've
we've been
already
sipping on it this
consumed
whole time.
most of
Yeah.
mine.
Yeah.
So this is it's from Collusion Tapworks. Jared Barnes was supposed to be our guest for this episode, and we got the beer, and it's always incredible. I love all the beers that I've had from them. Every time they're at a fest, I'm excited to see what they have. We recorded there a couple of years ago, and they always kind of push the envelope with their artwork a little bit. And they may or may not have gotten a few cease and desists along the way, but that's a sign that you made it. That's a sign that you're doing something right.
Somebody's paying attention.
Yeah. So what is the name of this Pilsner? I didn't even get to look at it.
This is First Right,
Oh.
German-style Pilsner.
Right, as in like RITE.
Right,
not-
as in the
not
one you...
Like
correct.
ShopRite.
Yeah.
Yeah, like ShopRite.
Is it technically, like, in that regard, is it a religious term? Because there's, like, your last rites. You read your last rites.
Well,
when
yeah,
you're
but a
dying.
rite of passage isn't necessarily religious.
I'm not going to lie. I always thought rite of passage was RIGHT.
No, that's RITE.
Whoops.
Yeah.
I've learned I've been doing a lot of things wrong.
I think it just means like a ceremonial occurrence that you have to do, like a hazing to get into like a frat. That's a rite of passage
Or
a rite.
Or heaven.
Yeah,
We
or
have the last
or
rites.
you're the hazing you have to take to get into heaven, which is pretty extreme.
How many Hail Marys and Our Fathers and...
But this is delicious. I mean, I'm glad we started with a Pilsner. I knew it was going to be good. Collusion
Of course.
makes great beers.
Absolutely.
And this is no exception.
Yeah, and this is the beer I needed after today and this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they've jumped on the bandwagon and are doing milk pours of this beer.
Oh, man.
course
I still
they
haven't
are.
had a milk pour. I was at Sunflower Park right across from Human Robot a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't get a chance to stop in and try one.
I did one milk pour very poorly at Human Robot with Steph and Dana and Rich and Jess. We were all there. I couldn't even do it I couldn't even chug a whole thing.
So for the uninitiated, like myself, I know the theory behind it. It's just, it's poured differently, so it's like 95% head, right?
Well, they use a special side pull draft pour,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's not just head; it's like a creamier, foamier head. So there's like some substance to it when you're drinking it. Like it has a very pleasant mouthfeel, and a slightly sweet flavor. And I mean, when we talked to Ken at Human Robot about it, they said that they started doing it mainly as a joke.
I kind of figured,
so they
yeah.
think it's funny how all these other breweries are doing it now too. But it is a quite popular tradition over in the Czech Republic. And yeah, Human Robot is the first I've known that has done it. And it's a fun time. People get them. Like as soon as we walked in, Ken's like, round of milk pours. And, we got them and we chug, and he's filming us on Instagram. And, it's a silly but fun thing to do. Kind of, a celebratory thing, but also at the same time, just not taking beer so seriously like so many of us have for so long.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's.
you know.
I don't understand. I understand why people take it so seriously, but something like this, just let yourself have fun. It literally poisons your brain temporarily.
Well, and how serious things have been, like
Yeah.
in the whole world and in the craft beer world. Like it is nice to know that there are still those moments where we can just be silly and
Yeah.
chug foam together.
Chug foam. Yeah, and it's like a tall, thin glass. I guess that's the traditional way to serve it. It's kind of like we had like a flute type glass.
Yeah.
But it amounts to like a single mouthful of beer. It's just all aerated so much that.
Right.
But yeah, I still couldn't chug it though.
I don't think I would be able to. But I guess there's only one way to find out. I guess I got to have a milk pour somewhere.
gotta try it.
I guess I got to
You
go
gotta
up to
try
Human
it.
Robot. Oh, darn. Oh, darn. There are worse things that I could have to do. There is also a little bit of follow-up. Last episode when we had Brian Mills on, we were talking about some heaviness in the industry and things that definitely needed to be talked about and things that are coming to light. Steph, there are some developments, and you had a conversation with Melissa from Love City. What happened there?
Yeah, so if there's anything through all this, I think I'm learning a little bit of patience. I'm the kind of person that when I want something done, I want it done now, but this isn't something that can be that way. But Melissa was gracious enough to sit down with Dana and I. We met at Mad Chef because Melissa was in Lancaster, so it was really cool. I actually got to introduce Francisco and Melissa, and Melissa's husband, Kevin, used to brew with Pim.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
And now Pim is the head brewer at Mad Chef, so it was really cool that they could make that connection, and they exchanged contact info, and I'm like, it'd be really, really cool to have another beer romance that I helped to start, and maybe we can do a collaboration or something, because that would be amazing. But anyway, it was nice we did have time to catch up and enjoy some beer and enjoy some food together. So it wasn't all serious conversation. But so the first thing that actually came up that seems so simple and obvious, but I didn't even think of, was the whole idea of a code of conduct, which we talked about as part of the Brave Noise initiative, that the breweries that do sign up to be a part of that, they do have to create and post a code of conduct. And Melissa said, well, why don't you guys make a code of conduct for the podcast? I don't even know if she's the one that said it or if she inspired me to say it, but that was sort of the first thing that we talked about. And I was like, this is awesome. And of course, I wanted to come home that day and draft a code of conduct and send it to you guys and see what you thought. And I quickly realized it is way more complicated than that. And this is something that is going to take quite a chunk of time, research and reading and conversations that are going to need to be had. But I definitely think it is a start. If we're dedicated to change and diversity in the beer industry, I think if we're encouraging and hoping that breweries and bars will have a code of conduct and enforce them, I think we should do the same. So something that we'll have to come up with, how do we operate? Who do we want to associate with? What are our beliefs and standard of behavior? What are expected behaviors and unexpected behaviors for us and for our podcast guests or for attendees of events that we're part of? And how do we have things reported, or what do we do when situations arise that don't match our code of conduct? So she's given me some resources and has shared with me their code of conduct. And one resource she shared was Crafted for All, which is kind of a pioneer in the world of beer diversity. Dr. J is sort of the founder. I'm not really sure what the correct descriptor is for her, but she's part of this Crafted for All movement, which they offer a template for thinking about actions to take. And so it's a good place to start this conversation. And Dr. J is actually someone I've reached out to about interviewing her on our podcast to have some candid conversations about this and to learn from her as well. So she is, of course, quite booked up. So we're hoping for the beginning of 2022 to get her on the podcast and have some good conversations with her. Another person in the beer diversity world is Ren Navarro. And if you don't follow her on Instagram, she is at beer_diversity, a very inspiring Instagram feed, I would say. And I've also learned a lot from her Instagram feed. We first were connected with her. She was the keynote speaker for the Queer Beer Fest this past summer. And listening to her talk about her journey and about diversity was very inspiring. So she also is booked through the year. So hopefully early 2022, we can also get her on the show. I have connected via email with her, but some great resources. And Dr. J, you can follow at Crafted for All on Instagram. Great ways just to be connected and be educated. I also don't know if people realize this, but the Brewers of Pennsylvania, there is actually an equity and inclusion committee that is part of the Brewers of Pennsylvania. And their mission serves to transform the Pennsylvania craft beer industry through creating educational opportunities and grants for people underrepresented in the craft beer industry, including people of color, women, people with disabilities, and those who identify as LGBTQIA+. With the fund, they are also creating training opportunities and resources around equity and inclusion for members of the Brewers of Pennsylvania. Megan from North Country Brewing and Melissa Walter from Love City are the co-chairs. Our friend Tim White from Harris Family is also on this committee. Davey from Chatty Monks is on the committee, and Hannah from Naked are all on the committee. So I knew of this committee, but did not realize that all but one of them have been on our podcast.
Yeah.
I didn't realize we were so connected with all of them. So it would be really lovely to perhaps get a few of them on and have some conversations as well. So that is exciting. Another one, author Shauna Potter. She does the Breweries of Pennsylvania video series. She has a book called Making Spaces Safer that Melissa recommended to me. I have not gotten my hands on that one yet, but we did get Tara's book, A Woman's Place is in the Brew House. I just started reading that one last night. So another good book if you're interested in being educated a little bit more. And hopefully we can get Tara on the show to talk about her book as well. Another place, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Trace Brewing in Pittsburgh. I never heard of it.
No.
Melissa told me about it. And actually, we just watched the latest episode of Boredom PA, which is on YouTube. And if you guys aren't watching the episodes, you got to check them out. Nate and his crew do an amazing job. They interviewed the crew from Trace Brewing in Pittsburgh. And as I was telling Wayne and Dan before we recorded, we're going to be heading out to Pittsburgh in a little bit. So I want to get to this brewery. But what they have is they have a training program where people can apply for paid internships. And it's a 6-month paid internship. And they look for underrepresented groups to educate them and get their foot in the door so that they can be part of the beer industry. So Dave is the man there, sort of in charge of things and running the program. And I'm hoping to connect with them as well. But if you're interested in learning more about that, definitely check out the latest episode of Boredom PA. So we sort of had, some other conversations. One thing, the Safe Bar Certification Program for anyone listening who is part of the industry is a really cool thing to look into. And of course, we mentioned the Not Me app when Brian was on last episode. So there are some really good resources out there. So I'm sort of just at the learning process, just trying to connect with as many people as I can and start reading things and understanding things. And I hope that our listeners can start to do that too. And hopefully we can connect with some of these people and get them on our podcast as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, not surprising that the awesome people we've had on our awesome podcast are continuing to do awesome and important things. And we are very, very proud to know them. That's pretty awesome. I said awesome a lot.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. I'm glad you were able to chat with Melissa about all that, and that you have so many ideas of where to go and potential future guests. Because this is a topic that it's like we've said, it needs to be discussed. Change needs to happen. Change, I feel like, will happen because of this and is in the process of happening. But it's a conversation that doesn't need to end, and it shouldn't end. It should be an ongoing conversation about inclusivity. And we should always strive to be better. And I'm glad. Yeah. I'm glad the industry. I'm glad humanity seems to be doing that in some ways. I'm glad that we can do that. On our little beer podcast.
Yes, if we're gonna wax philosophical, humanity does get better. It just comes in fits and starts.
That's true.
It's not always constant.
Yeah, 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
But I think it also is important to highlight not just the conversation, but the action. A lot of what Steph has talked about are real actionable resources that people can make use of. For everything from creating a code of conduct all the way through these, internship programs and opportunities for underrepresented communities in the beer industry. Obviously you have to talk about it, but we also have to have resources to affect the change that needs to happen. So,
yeah, and I'm glad Melissa brought up the idea of doing a code of conduct for us because I didn't think of it either, but that's such a brilliant idea, and it's right there, and I hope we can we'll come up with something soon, but it's obviously something we want to think long and hard about. It shouldn't be rushed. So we'll get it. We'll talk it over. I'm sure the three of us will sign it internally, and then we'll keep that in our hearts.
I was signing myself internally.
I know our
figured.
listeners can't see.
I know. No, that's just for the viewers.
It's just for us.
Well, and another big topic right now, which Dan, you alluded to, is what's going on in the service industry.
Yeah.
With the number of people that lost their jobs throughout this whole pandemic, and the number of people that sort of have had the realization of this is the time to move on to a different career or whatever the choice may be. But the reality is the service industry is extremely short-staffed right now.
Oh, for sure.
And I guess we didn't realize how serious it was until more recently, but for us as podcasters, it's been quite difficult to get some guests on the show because a lot of these owners or brewery workers are working much longer hours than they ever had before because there aren't people to staff their breweries. And, you know, we as a podcast have talked about ways to be creative and find, as Dan said about that, some of our episodes may be a little unique in format coming up to better serve our guests. So hopefully that they can still have the time to spread the good news about their breweries. But it's rough. And I think we as consumers on the consumer side need to be aware that when we are going out to breweries or restaurants or a coffee bar or whatever type of service establishment it may be, that first of all, we need to be patient. We've all been locked up and not have been able to do things for so long. And I think we're all so excited and gung-ho to be able to go out in public and go to breweries and restaurants again. But, you know, it's going to take time. Servers are overworked. The kitchen staff is overworked. And, you know, I think we all have to have a little more compassion and patience than ever before. And Wayne, I have actually worked in the service industry briefly in high school. But Wayne, I guess of the three of us, you are probably the most expert in this field, as it were. So I know I try to tip a lot right now.
Yeah.
When I go out to show my appreciation, and I try to be positive and kind to these people. That's basically what I know I'm hoping I'm doing, is making a difference and helping to not make it stressful for those that are working. But I don't know. Do you have any advice or any thoughts on this?
I mean, we could have a very long podcast with all my thoughts. But, you know, one thing that I recently traveled to Europe. We talked about it a little bit in the last episode. I was in London and Paris. And one of the most stressful things was the etiquette in dining out and not knowing what you're supposed to do and what's generally accepted. Do you ask for the check? In the States, we don't really ask for the check. We just expect the server will bring it by, say no rush, but whenever you're ready, et cetera, et cetera. Other places you're expected to ask. But one thing that really struck me was being in a culture where you are not expected to pick up the slack for an employer who is not paying their employees enough to do their jobs, where they are not counting on your tips to survive. Yeah. Over that, in the places I was at. And I kind of knew that was the culture, but experiencing it was something else because I felt bad. I felt like I was doing something wrong.
Yeah. When I was there,
you feel like you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, when I was there, when I was in high school, it was the same thing. You know, you're used to tipping, and there you don't. If you leave extra money, the server comes out and says, "Hey, you forgot money."
Yeah, or you're if you do tip for exceptional service, they expect 10%. You know, it's not what we do. All that is to say, I mean, that was a very long tangent. Is that I feel like the service industry has been completely unsustainable for a very long time.
Yeah.
The whole culture around the service industry, the whole way it works, particularly food service, and beverage, and all that encompasses. It's been on a collision course for disaster for years. And the pandemic and all the economic upheaval that came from it just sort of accelerated that to its breaking point. Now, that's not to say that any individual restaurateur is good or bad. There's plenty. The people I work for currently are incredibly generous and treat everyone incredibly well. And I'm very, very lucky to work in a restaurant that has a lot of positives that you don't find in restaurants a lot of the time. So it's not necessarily the fault of any, everyone we know who owns breweries treat their employees with respect. Their employees love working for them, but the industry as a whole and the culture around what is expected by consumers is just not sustainable. And it's just not to expect people to work for $2 and change in the hopes that they're going to make the extra $5 an hour to make the $7 minimum wage that their employer is required to pay is absurd. It's inhumane and it's ridiculous. And, it was bound to break at some point. The problem is the people that are benefiting from all of this are incentivized to keep it going as long as possible. But everything that's happened has sort of forced the hand, as it were. So that's my rant on that. I feel like this was going to happen one way or another. It just probably wasn't going to happen this quickly and completely all of a sudden at once. But a global pandemic does weird things. As a consumer, you need to understand all of that. You need to understand that you've grown up in a world where you expect something that's just can't be sustained forever. And that's to be said of a lot of things. And we could talk about, fossil fuels. We could talk about, energy consumption. We could talk about all kinds of stuff. But the service industry is the same thing. We've just been fed this sort of fairy tale where, like, you're supposed to have this certain experience and it's only supposed to cost you this much and it's supposed to happen this fast and you're supposed to be, some people expect to be weighted on hand and foot for spending $10. Like, it just doesn't work that way. And I think as a consumer, that's where you need to start. You need to understand that, a lot of the people working in these jobs are in situations that they haven't chosen to be in necessarily. And they are people and they have lives and they have concerns, and, your money pays their bills, and, maybe your food shouldn't have been as cheap as it has been for a long time. Maybe the wait time was really fast because somebody was like really driving people way too hard to turn over tables. Maybe, again, we've been conditioned to expect something that's not sustainable. And I think a lot of people don't realize how unsustainable it really is. Yeah. And I think this is difficult, but it's a correction, and not everyone's going to survive. Hopefully the good people do. But I think as advice to consumers, that's really, you just need to understand that that's what's going on, and this is the result of that, and things are going to change, and it's going to be rough for a while, and maybe just adjust your expectations.
Not only, I like your point about the whole service industry not being sustainable in the way that it is, and you're right. I feel like this is a correction. But it has always kind of fostered itself and lended itself to being an industry that has a very high turnover rate, because they know that once somebody gets fed up and leaves, somebody else needs a job and they can come in and pay them the minimum wage and hope that they'll bust their ass to try to get the extra $5. And that's not great. If you adjust the minimum wage from what it was in the 30s to what it is now, minimum wage is like $22 an hour.
Yeah, 22 is the inflation adjusted. Yeah, that's what I've heard.
And if you're going somewhere and a bar, a restaurant, whatever, is paying their servers $2.13 an hour to get tips to try to make up the rest, that is not a livable wage. Yeah. And I don't want to get too political or anything, because I know we have listeners that are on either sides of the political spectrum, but it's just flat out, that's not a livable wage, and people are now recognizing. There's a meme that was online recently, and I agree, it's a very valid point. You tell people in the service industry that if they don't like it and they want to make more money to get another job, well, a lot of them are looking for other jobs, and now you're feeling the struggle because now they finally listened to you.
Yeah, we were doing some research before we started recording, knowing that we wanted to bring up this topic. And they said that a big reason why there is this shortage is because a number of people during the pandemic decided, instead of going back to my office job, I'm just going to retire. And then that opened up all of these positions that people were like, this is my out. I can, get out of the service industry. And there is that big void. But there is also a large population of people that genuinely enjoy working in the service industry.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
The idea of having an office job is ridiculous to them. So some people will say, well, why don't you just get a different job? Why don't you stop work? Well, deep down, they like working in restaurants or in the service industry. And, enjoying your job is so much, but you still have to be treated fairly and make a livable wage. And, those things are important, and everyone deserves that. And yeah, it blows my mind that we're in 2021 and there are still people that their actual hourly salary is like $2 something an hour.
Yeah,
it's absolutely absurd to me.
Yeah. And that is changing a lot and quickly, because people aren't putting up with it anymore, to be quite frank. I did want to also say there is a flip side kind of to that point, is that the restaurant I work at, we used to collect tips, just a tip pool for everybody. But the owners made the decision to raise everyone's starting rate by like $5 an hour and do away with tips. And the effect of that is the staff that is currently working in the restaurant now is 10 times better than the staff was when I worked before COVID. Because you can be picky when you're paying people a decent wage. And also, we should live in a culture where working at TGI Fridays for your whole life is fine.
Yeah, if that's what you want to do,
what's
do
wrong
it.
with that?
Yeah, Steph, you said there are people who enjoy being in the service industry.
Exactly.
I like to think that I'm a people person. I joke around about hating people, but when it comes down to it, I'm social. I like talking to people.
And it's not easy to be good at.
No, not at all.
It's really not.
Yeah.
It's easy to be bad at.
Oh my God, yeah. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. If whatever job makes you happy, if you're happy there, cool. But you shouldn't have to suffer because the job that you like working pays that little. Yeah. Or somebody comes through and has $100 tab and then they tip you $4.
Yeah.
Or not at all.
Or not at all. Yeah.
I don't know if people realize this, but in some restaurants, the server is required to pay the restaurant so much in order to wait on a table.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So if somebody skips out on the bill,
yeah,
the server is still required to, out of their check, pay part of that bill back to the restaurant.
I did know about that.
Wait on that table.
Yeah.
Like, it's so ridiculously
expecting you to be a security guard as well as like you're supposed to stop people from robbing you. Like,
yeah,
that's not your job.
You're also stretched too far thin with a bunch of tables, and then somebody ducks out on the check when they're serving somebody else or back in the kitchen getting the food to bring to a different table. They're not going to see it. It shouldn't be up to them.
It's just not okay.
No, not at all.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe Wayne, you have some more insight in this. Like, I don't know how we as consumers can support the people, like, beyond like tipping outrageously when we go to our favorite places, or we have servers that we really, really like and we want to support them. But is there something bigger we can do? Like, how do we lobby for this to truly make change so that this is not the case anymore?
I think you do it the same way we've talked about with everything going on in the beer industry right now. You vote with your dollar. You educate yourself about what the establishments you are patronizing are doing. You find out. Don't ask the employees, by the way, at work, any of these things. Don't ask them while they're at their jobs, what are you getting paid? Do your boss treat you? That's fucked up. Obviously, they're going to lie to you. They're at work. But try to find out, like the place where I work, they proudly display, we no longer accept tips because we pay our employees a living wage. And that goes a long way. And people retweet it. People have taken pictures of the sign and shared it on social media to say, hey, how cool is this that this restaurant's doing this? And that's what consumers need to do. They need to. Tipping outrageously is great, and it really helps one person or the couple people that wait on you, but it doesn't change anything.
Right.
Because you're still just picking up the slack for a fucked up
system.
You're
then the outlier.
You're basically paying someone's salary on top of paying for the service and the goods that you've been provided, which is absurd. But yeah, just educate yourself about the establishments and reward the ones that treat their employees well.
Yeah.
And go there, spend more money there, and don't go to places where you hear that people aren't being treated well. And I think it's going to be easier to find out that information now because people feel brave enough to come forward and say, like, yeah, where I work, this is the shit I've had to put up with. Whereas before, you just kind of didn't really, you gripe about it with your coworkers, but you don't really talk about it at large like that. But I feel like more and more of those conversations are being had. And I think it's the same thing we've talked about before. Educate yourself and patronize establishments that do good things.
There are some restaurants also that are starting to add a flat service fee to the bill. We noticed this when we were in Denver, Colorado, and again when we were in Brooklyn as well, that it's a flat percentage, 10 or 20% or whatever, and it goes directly towards the staff. And then there's an option if you want to tip on top of that as well. So maybe not as awesome as we're paying our employees this rate. You don't need to tip them at all, but at least it is something in the right direction. But no, I agree. I would rather pay more money for my meals and know that the people that are making my food and serving my food and just working in the restaurant or brewery or whatever are making a decent wage. But that also means that we as consumers need to not complain when we see that prices go up as well, and understand that there is a greater good that's happening here.
Yeah. I would be okay with paying an extra $1 for a cup of coffee, an extra couple of dollars for a sandwich, to know that the course has been corrected or is in the process of being corrected. I don't mind my stuff being more expensive, reasonably, if it means that somebody that's working at my favorite restaurant gets to pay their bills.
The shit of it is right now is that the value of service labor is increasing quickly.
Right.
However, what's also increasing is the cost of raw materials, and the availability of raw materials is plummeting. My girlfriend just shared something on Instagram comparing prices of supplies, food supplies and like paper goods, like takeout boxes and shit, and what they cost 12 months ago versus what they cost now. It's hundreds and hundreds of percentages increase in prices. And I know where I work, the owner where I work, he's like, I had to like stop. I designed menus for a little while during COVID while I wasn't in full time. To post in the restaurant new menu signs. I had to stop making them because he's like, I can't keep up with the prices. I don't know what I'm going to have to charge for a sandwich next week. Like, I don't want to post these prices. And so it kind of sucks because you're going to see price increases on a lot of things. So you have, not only trying to, make sure everybody's getting paid a living wage, but also just everything costs more right now. Yeah. So it's kind of a double whammy.
Yeah. You're getting hit from both sides because it is a labor thing, but it's also a supply chain thing. Like I was even joking around with somebody at work the other day. Remember when chicken wings were in short supply?
Yeah.
That was very recent. Like Wingstop had to be Thigh Stop because they couldn't get wings anymore. And that's a big thing. Like it's obviously not just wings. Like, I work in IT. There's a shortage of conductors. There's a shortage of like silicone chips that fuel your technology. So like I've got people I support who are waiting 3 to 4 months to get a new computer because there just aren't computers to get anymore. And everything is just going to be exponentially more expensive on that front. Like there will be a time when the raw materials average out, I'm sure. And some of that goes back to normal. But I'll say it again. I'm still okay with having to pay slightly more at a coffee shop, at a bar, at a restaurant, at wherever I go. If that means that whoever is helping me, whoever's in that service industry, can pay their bills. That I want. I want my money to go towards their labor, not towards necessarily the materials. Obviously that's all factored in. But I'd much rather, I'm going to rest easier knowing that my money goes to help somebody pay their rent when they don't have to struggle anymore.
Well, and what about, restaurants and breweries? These places are struggling to stay open as it is.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there has to be this moral dilemma of, I want to be able to pay my staff more.
Oh, for sure.
But I need to keep my business open. And there has to be a double-edged sword, especially for some of the, there's businesses that opened right before COVID or right at the beginning of COVID. And, and we even have talked to business owners who had to let go of staff or had to open with just themselves to run the business. And it's just, there's so many extra factors out there that are affecting all of this. And it's good that all of these things are coming to light and we're having all of these hard conversations, but we just need to have a little bit of compassion and be kind and patient with each other, because I feel like everyone was so happy-go-lucky last year and we can get through this. 2020 is the worst, but we're surviving. And all of a sudden in 2021, we're all we hate everybody again, but even more than we did before.
Right, yeah, it seems worse.
Yeah, I don't remember feeling all this negativity. It's so much, and I don't know.
I think it's just exposing shit that was there, but we had enough going on that we could ignore it. I honestly feel like a big part of the reason there's been so much social unrest, not to minimize any of the causes that anybody is acting for, but I think a big part of the reason that political divisions got so much sharper is because in lockdown we weren't forced to be out in public pretending to like everybody. That's what we do. When you go out in public, you're polite to people. Even people that are kind of dicks have situations where they're forced to act in a semi decent manner out in public. That's just the way it is. And when you take that away for an extended period of time, people just wallow in their thoughts and their prejudices, and then it just explodes. You know?
Well, and you're forced to be around, not forced, but when you're around the same group of people all of the time, you're not getting constructive conversation in your life anymore. And we've sort of forgot how to accept and listen to other people's opinions because we've just been able to be with our own opinions or with people that typically agree with us. Mm-hmm. And that's dangerous. Like, we can't just socialize with people that feel the same the way we do about things. You know, disagreements and these things are healthy for us. They help us grow. Yeah. I grabbed soft and cuddly because I feel I kind of like.
I should have asked you first. I just opened a different one.
Oh,
I mean, it's fine.
We held it up to the camera, but I guess you weren't paying attention.
I saw, but I also thought I was late to it. Oh well,
I was digging around for a different beer. Well, I opened.
We'll get to them. What is this?
Oh damn!
Panacea, Mercurial Milk Stout.
We're drinking soft and cuddly. It's the mango vanilla fruited sour version of this beer. It's a fruited sour with barley, wheat, and lactose, conditioned with lots of sticky, sweet mango puree and vanilla. And they have a whole line of these fruited sours called soft and cuddly. And it's not as thick and cloying as I was afraid it's going to be, like many of these can. It definitely has that smoothie look to it, very opaque.
Yeah, but I would trust Jared with.
I actually kind of like it though. Yeah. These are usually not my jam, pun intended, perhaps.
Oh boy!
But I really, the mango flavor is really quite pleasant.
Awesome, that's good.
And you guys open the milk stout?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll try to remember all your comments when we get to that beer.
Yeah, I like this.
It's almost ice creamy.
Yeah,
it reminds me of ice cream.
I was going to say the same thing.
That's funny. Was that the last time we recorded with him? Was the whole was that Ben and Jerry's?
Yeah, Ben and Jared's.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Dan alluded to that earlier. Yep.
Yeah, I know. Oh, by the way, we've been on. It's Untapped's 11th anniversary, by the way.
Oh, cool. I should probably check beers in then. So we've been talking about some serious stuff, and it's things that need to be talked about, and I hope we can bring up a couple of topics that people may not have thought about or points about these topics. But I also just want to think about fun things for a little bit too, not serious things. So I had a thought earlier. I was thinking about all the places that I've been able to buy a beer or to buy booze, and it seems like it's just increasingly more available. Where's the most unexpected place you've ever seen alcohol for sale?
Oh, that's a good question.
So I don't know if I can think of an unexpected one either, because now it seems like it's everywhere. Get a drink when you're at the movies, which I go to 2 movie theaters. There's one in Jersey, and there's one here in Center City, Philly. The one in Center City serves beer. I didn't realize it till after I left the first movie I saw there, and I just keep forgetting about it. Like, I know there are other movie theaters where you can get alcohol.
Yeah, it used to be like specialty, like the movie tavern. Like, it was a special movie theater that served food and
or
drink.
like the fancy artsy ones where, you can get a glass of wine while you're watching, I don't know, Paul Thomas Anderson or whatever.
I don't know who that is.
Like an indie director. But anyway,
I feel like the first thing I wanted to say was a public restroom, but I don't know if that's actually true. I just feel like it has to be. There has to be somewhere you can buy booze in a restroom.
I can see somewhere like Chickies and Pete's doing that.
I don't know if I've ever seen it. I may have at some point, and it's just like buried in my subconscious. That's the first thing I want to say. I can't think of any concrete examples.
Yeah, like the stereotypical places you get them are like obviously bars and restaurants, but then there's baseball games, football games, sporting events in general, concerts.
Airplanes,
although I'm flying in a couple of weeks, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get alcohol.
They on our flight, our domestic flight didn't, but our international flights I think did have alcohol because we had a layover, so we flew domestically on one leg.
Okay, and
I know I don't think they did because I think it was American Airlines, and they specifically stopped I think on their domestic flights serving alcohol because people are getting crazy.
Yep, and that's the airline that I am flying. So I'm assuming I won't be able to. I'm guessing like you can get a soda or something, but my tradition is whenever I fly on American, I gotta get the little airline bottle of Woodford Reserve and a can of Coke.
There's got to be There's got to be like a car service attack. I mean, limos, I guess, are usually stocked with booze if you like rent a limo.
I will say there's a hat shop, so I dabbled in trying to be a hat
shop
guy.
that sells whiskey.
Well, no, they just give it to you. It was Gorin Brothers. I got my Jeff cap from there a couple of years ago that I still wear every now and then, and because their hats are so expensive, like they have a decanter with really nice whiskey there. And I walked in. I was on my lunch break from work, so I couldn't have any. But I kind of want to go back in and shop for a hat and just have some whiskey, you know?
Yeah, that's. I bet you there's probably. I mean, in that same regard, there's probably like high end, fancy department stores where you can get like a glass of wine or something.
Yeah,
kind of like the casino thing, where like if you're gambling, they'll like continue to serve you alcohol.
And not even all casinos do that. I think that's the weirder part. Or maybe we've just been conditioned to say that casinos are, where you get drinks because all you got to do is, tip the server for it. So $1 gets you a drink or whatever. But there's if you're in Pennsylvania, you go out towards Hershey, you have the Hollywood Casino. They don't comp your drinks. They charge you for every single drink. And not that that's, a bad thing. They're within their right to do that, but they're going against the grain in that regard.
So Steph and Dana, who have definitely been here this entire
The whole entire time, no questions asked.
We're still talking about weird places you can buy booze.
Well, I remember one time I was up in Boston, and it was one of those, I guess it would be like a Fleet Week, where a bunch of the military ships and stuff like that, like dock along the city. And the public would be able to go on to the different ships and tour them. Like I remember going on, what's the ones where they have the airplanes on them that they're flat on top? What are they called?
Wait, what?
Carrier, like an aircraft carrier.
Oh! I thought you meant the plane was flat
the
on
ones
top.
that carry planes, aircraft carrier.
They carry
it's
aircraft.
literally called what I described it. But I remember that there was a bar on the deck of one of them, and it was for the Pilsner that's spelled Jever. Hever is how I say it. I don't know if that's how you properly pronounce it.
Beats me.
But they were serving that on tap. So I bought a pint of it and was drinking it on the deck of a military ship.
That's awesome.
Wow, that's cool.
So that was kind of cool.
I feel like I walked around the King of Prussia Mall once with a beer.
Oh, didn't we talk about that on the podcast a few years ago?
Maybe.
Just because you did it doesn't mean
Right.
But no, there was a place that opened at King of Prussia, and we did talk about walking around King of Prussia with a beer. I feel like that came up on the show before. I don't know.
But it wouldn't surprise me if they did something like that, or like if they had, a mall as big as King of Prussia, I'm sure you can't do it, especially going into this time of year. But if you get like a 21 and over night at a smaller mall, you could set up and have vendors along the way, or maybe like do a shopping beer fest kind of.
A shopping beer fest. A beer fest in a mall.
We might be onto something. I mean, malls don't really exist
That could either be
anymore.
great or terrible.
It's true. There's no middle ground. No middle ground at all. But you see, the problem is you get some places, like I'm going to go back to the movie theaters. You get some movie theaters that sell it and some that don't. So if I go to Center City, I figure, okay, I can have a beer. But if I go to Jersey, I can't. I got to go back to soda. Or, they have their Coke freestyle machines. And they have AHA in that now. I got a blueberry pomegranate AHA the other day. Oh, that was great.
Yeah, they are owned by Coke. So
so there's almost like there's no consistency between it, which in a way makes it a little more unique and kind of strange.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I had to do some convoluted Googling in order to have this conversation correctly. But so did you know that in Emmaus, they don't have an open container law? Oh. So in the town of Emmaus, you can actually walk around with beer. So that's where Funk Brewing started. They're also in Elizabethtown. And so Yergi Brewing is also in Emmaus, and you can buy beer in like a sippy cup to go. And I believe, no, it's been a really long time since I've been there, but I believe there was some sort of, there's a movie theater nearby, and I don't know if it's all the time or if it just happened to be a special event, but you could get a beer in the sippy cup to go from Yergi and take it to the movie theater.
That's cool.
There's probably people in Emmaus that are like, she's saying this completely wrong. And if I am, just message me and tell me the truth. But
it's kind
of...
So,
dude, I didn't realize that there were individual towns within the state of Pennsylvania that could have different laws.
I thought that would have been a statewide thing.
Yeah, especially considering we're the Quaker state and have the worst liquor laws.
I mean, it's a lot better. I mean, even when we started the podcast, the liquor laws were a lot worse in Pennsylvania than
That's
they are
true.
now.
That's true. I remember how excited I was when Acme started selling alcohol.
Acme.
Yeah, I didn't know there was somewhere that had the loosened laws.
Open. Yeah. Well, isn't Vegas open? Like you can walk around in Vegas with a.
There's nothing matters in Vegas.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah. So Steph, you said you can get like the sippy cup or whatever. Over the pandemic, the local breweries to us, specifically Ars and Second District, are the two closest to us. I went to pick up food at some restaurant right around the corner from Brewery Ars, and while I was waiting, I went over and got like an Oktoberfest or something last October, and it was in a sippy cup, and I was like, well, I could in theory drink this while I'm walking home, and I realized, well, there's nothing matters in South Philly, so just fucking do it. But yeah, like the cocktails to go and beer to go, like that was a cool thing. I don't understand why that stopped. They should bring it back. Granted, you don't want public drunkenness on your hands, but I feel like that could make a successful comeback because people didn't go crazy and abuse it last time,
Yeah.
Put a little faith in your citizens, Pennsylvania.
That's right. Maybe not all of them, though.
Put a little faith in like 60% of your citizens. But I
like being able to, like, the Christmas season when you go to a place and you get to walk outside and like look at the Christmas lights. Like, it's kind of cool to like have an alcoholic beverage while you're doing that. Like if you go to a Chris Kindle Mart and you can get a Glühwein or something, and those are kind of fun moments that you don't often think of having alcohol, but it's a nice thing to enhance the experience, as it were. Well, and even like zoos and like Disney World, like these places that used to not serve alcohol.
Oh yeah, Disney was so against it for so long.
Epcot was the only place that you can get it. And I mean, I haven't been down to Disney World in many, many years, but I believe that all of the parks now serve alcohol.
I don't know.
So that was kind of...
Well, yeah, because everybody goes crazy about getting Dole Whips. And I think those are mostly like, is it still MGM and Magic Kingdom? Are those through the parks?
A Dole Whip you get at Magic Kingdom by the Enchanted Tiki Room.
I haven't been to Disney since like 06.
Tiki Room. I do remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I was
Dole
at Disney
Whips
World
are
once
fabulous.
I remember
they're not alcoholic by nature. You now can get an alcoholic Dole Whip.
Oh.
But it's just pineapple juice and the pineapples frozen. It's not like it's non-dairy. They're actually vegan.
Oh, cool.
The frozen soft serve stuff that's not milk. I don't know what it is, but they're delightful.
They are quite nice.
I didn't know that they were non-alcoholic by default. I thought it was like a daiquiri where like you assume it's going to be alcoholic and you have to specify that you
I
don't.
Thought they were. I didn't even realize there was an alcoholic option.
Oh, I've always seen them as alcohol.
I didn't know that.
Ick.
Ick.
I've always seen them as alcohol. Ick.
Yeah.
There's one of the mixology YouTube channels I watch. The guy created his own Dole Whip, and maybe that's why I assumed.
And that's why you associate it with alcohol.
Maybe.
I remember the one and only time I was in Disney World when Dan and I went with our parents when they were trying to save their marriage and it didn't work. I was like 14, and I know they served beer at like the restaurants and stuff in Epcot. I wasn't old enough to drink, obviously. And there was it was like Pleasure Island. It was like a nightclub place that you had to be. I think over 21, maybe just over 18 to get into, and that was the only other place that had booze.
It was that was part of Downtown Disney, and I remember that's where Planet Hollywood was, and it was when Dad, he's still obsessed with them, is obsessed with like Planet Hollywood and Hard Rock. Those kind of like big chains that are in big cities. So we would go to Planet Hollywood, and he had his VIP card where you didn't have to wait for a table. And I remember when we were there the one night, he's like, yeah, your mom and I were going to go to Downtown Disney over here to whatever the bar was. And I was like, all right, cool. I guess we'll just hang out in the hotel. And like, I went swimming that night. I don't know what you did.
I remember walking like as close as I could get to the place where you had to be old enough to get into. There was like a bridge or something and like a gate.
That seems familiar. Yeah,
I do remember that. I was also probably hiding behind a bush smoking a cigarette while they were doing that.
Did you smoke while we were down there?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Wow.
I smoked a cigarette in the shower in the hotel room.
That's bold.
On that trip.
That's bold. Although you're right. Our parents were preoccupied, so they probably just didn't notice.
Yeah.
They
didn't care at that point. I could have done whatever. They had given up on me at that point.
I wouldn't quite say that.
I'm sorry, Mom and Dad. I love you. I'm just kidding.
I mean, you turned out okay.
Mostly.
All's well that ends well, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to keep an eye out for strange places that offer me alcohol. Not necessarily strange people, because that's a totally different topic.
Yeah, you gotta be careful
Don't
with
go
that.
up to any strange white fans, please.
I make no promises. If they offer me alcohol and candy, I'm in. But I feel like we should consider playing a game.
Should we play a game?
Yeah, let's.
Is that what we do?
Let's do.
All
it.
right, we haven't broken the format entirely.
Not entirely. No, some things are still. One of these days, I'll do news again. Who knows? Who
news.
fucking knows?
Does that still happen?
I don't know.
Does non-depressing news still happen?
See, that's the thing. That's the thing. The news was dominated by, hey, we're all going to die. And I didn't want to look at that.
That's fair.
But we're all still alive, so.
We're all still alive.
Well, some of us on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much on the inside.
My inside has been autographed by me. You all saw it. We're playing a game? Cheers, Internet! And welcome to Happy Fun Time Games, the podcast trivia segment that hates everyone again, but a little bit more than before. We are joined today by Dana, who will be challenging my co-hosts, Dan and Steph, in an epic battle of wits with absolutely nothing on the line. And today, we are playing what I like to call Libation or Fabrication's Transient Weird Uncle.
Oh, no.
Brewery or Forgery.
Ooh, I forgot about this one.
Yes, this is a game where I will tell you the name of a brewery, and you must tell me if it's a really real brewery or if I just made
Really
it
real.
up. Yes, really real is key.
Can I go with
Really
partially real?
No,
Okay.
it's a binary proposition. Dan, we're beginning with you.
God damn it.
You may be shocked to hear. Tell me, is this the name of a real brewery, or did I make it up? It's called Tripping Animals Brewing.
See, the problem is there's what, like 10,000 breweries?
About 8,500.
8,500? Okay. Plus all the ones that are no longer open for whatever reason. That sounds real. I don't know.
All right, Dan saying that's real, but with not much confidence. Steph
Real.
also saying real. And finally, Dana
Real.
also
There's
saying
moderate confidence from both of them.
there was moderate confidence, and it was well earned because it is, in fact, real. Tripping Animals Brewing does actually exist, and there's a pretty interesting story behind the brewery, so I'm just going to read it verbatim from their website. It was back in 2011 that the crew started brewing beer out of their garage in Caracas, Venezuela, making wild concoctions with whatever they could get their hands on and stoking their passion for craft beer. After years of traveling to breweries and around the world experimenting with different styles of brewing, the crew took a leap of faith and moved to Miami to pursue the next chapter of their brewing careers. It was finally in 2018 that Daniel Chokrom, Ignacio Montenegro, Iker Elorriaga, excuse me if I'm pronouncing these wrong, and Juan
Is there a
Manuel
question mark in the middle of his name?
Torres. Yeah, well, I was like, should I roll the R or not? Came across their dream location and founded Tripping Animals Brewing Company in the heart of Doral, Florida.
See, and that starting in Venezuela totally negates my thing about the 8,500 whatever breweries, because I didn't even
Right?
consider international.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
the
Yeah, but
8,500 is just in
typical
the US.
fucking American.
But the brewery is in the U.S. They are from Venezuela. The brewery's in
Right,
Florida.
right.
So it is a U.S. brewery.
But you said they started brewing in Venezuela.
They
and then
did
moved
start,
to
yes,
Miami,
yes.
which means you could have gotten breweries from other countries, and that is my doubtful.
That's true. That's true. Yes, I see where you're going now. Well, everyone was right on that one, so I don't know what you're complaining about. Moving on.
Was it complaining? I don't think I was complaining.
No, you weren't.
Just reiterating a point to myself.
Steph is going to guess first on this one. Our next brewery is called Malt and Pepper Ales. Is that real or fake?
Fake.
Saying that is fake, Dana.
Fake.
Also fake. And Dan?
See, I think it's fake too, but I don't want us to all have the same answer for two. We're fucking fake. It's fake.
Everybody's saying fake, and guess what? Everybody's correct again. It is.
Because of the face you made after you said it.
Oh, that's fair.
It was that look of, I came over that, guys. This is funny.
Good. That's pretty good. I'm not the only one who came up with it. There are beers that have that name, but no breweries yet. But I feel like an exclusive chili pepper brewery sounds like it would probably be a thing, and I feel like it would be the perfect name, Malt and Pepper Ales.
And it would be opened and operated by Steph Hefner.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. Moving on to Dana, who has the privilege of guessing first for our penultimate brewery of the game. Here we go. Tell me, is this real or is it fake? This one is called Gritty McDuff's Brew Pub.
Fake.
Saying that is fake, Dan.
That's absurd enough to be real for me.
All right, Dan saying real. We finally have some disagreement in this game. Steph?
It's real.
Saying it is real. My fellow co-hosts are correct. Woo. It is, in fact, real. I tried to do the smug look. I tried to fake it that time. Yeah, isn't that a good one? But it only fooled one of you. Founded in 1988, Gritty McDuff's, or Gritties for short, which I feel like Philly should have something to say about that.
Absolutely.
Them calling themselves Gritties. But they started in 1988. They have 3 locations in Auburn, Portland, and Freeport, Maine. The first beer they ever brewed was a best bidder, so respect for that.
Off to a good start.
Gritty McDuff's is
Hold
really
on.
real.
Is there a penultimate brewing?
Oh,
that's a good question.
Probably. Who wants to Google it?
I'm gonna.
And if there isn't, I feel like Wayne.
It's going to come up in a future game, and you'll know the answer.
Or you just need to open a brewery.
No, then that's it. Well, that's a lot more work than just putting together a stupid game. While Dan is fact-checking, we will add up the scores to see where we stand at this point. This is a pretty quick game. And everybody was guessing the same for a while. We have Dan and Steph both neck and neck with perfect scores so far, 3 out of 3. Dana only 1 behind with 2 out of 3, getting that last question wrong. So, still a chance. It could be a German sparkle party at the very least. So we're going to start with Dan, go to Steph, and end with Dana.
There is a Penultimate Brews founded in 2015. Penultimate Brews was created to fill the gap of easily accessible information for those seeking local brewery locations around Chicago. The vision quickly expanded to the... Oh, wait, what? Never mind. What the fuck? Today, the vision is global with over 25,000 locations featured on a flat... What the fuck is this?
25,000 locations? Is there any business in the world that has 25,000 locations?
We make easy-to-use location-based...
Unless it's a porta-potty company and they count each porta-potty.
No. It's an information site.
There it is. Yeah, we make easy-to-use location-based directories of beer and spirits companies that get customers in tap rooms. There's a lot of beers that have penultimate in the name, though.
See, that's the trouble.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, 25,000 locations, huh?
25,000 locations. Fortunately, there are only 3 players and 1 question left in this game. A far cry from 25,000. Yeah, and we're starting with you for our final brewery of the game. Is it real or is it fake? This one is called Cunning Trappists.
Oh, I don't know.
Dan is saying that is fake after much deliberation. Steph?
I'm going to say real for the win.
Uh-oh.
Real FTW.
There's some confidence behind that.
Real?
Real? Yeah, you should probably say real, right? That would be the right strategy. Unfortunately, you're wrong because it's fake. It is, in fact,
damn it,
fake. Cunning Trappist, not a brewery. It does sound like something dirty. I mean, it's not, but it's one of those things that sounds dirty, but it isn't. But it's also not a real brewery. So there you go, Cunning Trappist. So that means, with a perfect 4 out of 4 score, our big winner today is Dan.
Oh, wait, I got them all right?
You got every single one right. Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
I mean, to be fair, it's a 50-50 shot. So Steph is close behind with 3 out of 4, only getting the last one wrong. And Dana started out strong and halfway through the game just stopped. 2 out of 4 points for Dana. Thank you, everyone, for playing. If this video sees the light of day, do the things that you're supposed to do.
Do the things.
But this is, of course, the part of the podcast where we shout out to our most generous patrons on Patreon. And today, we have a new patron to announce. Thank you very much to Todd Hills for signing up to become a patron. I will also say, I always announce new patrons in this segment, but Todd is also at a tier where he will continue to be on the patron shout-out. So thank you for your generosity, Todd. It is much appreciated.
That's amore.
That is indeed amore. And we also appreciate the following patrons as well. Ben Mengel.
Son of a fucking bitch, what?
Yeah, goddammit, Ben. Chris Mahoney. Let's talk about 7, baby. Dana.
You guys want a bonus beer?
Always. Sean Sullivan.
Dan, you loser.
Thanks, Ken.
Wow. So you've got oh, I'm blanking. What's the victory guy's name?
Bill Kovaleski.
Bill Kovaleski saying that he made the Pilsner for you, and now you've got Ken Carell saying "fuck you, Dan."
Yeah, and I don't know
loser.
where Bill's is. Oh no.
What was the last one I read? Sean Sullivan. Sure. PA Brew Review.
Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want.
Topher Simmons.
Don't forget the F.
Jill Chivers. That's an odd sound. Eric Dixon.
Motherfucker.
That's pretty perfect. Jen McDonald.
Hold on. I want that to be my text tone.
Yeah, that would be good. Here, let's do a clean one if anyone wants to record it for their phone. Here we go.
Motherfucker.
There you go. You're welcome. Where was I? Jen McDonald.
It's got a hair of Dutch.
Thank you, Jen. Brian Mills.
Hold on.
I love a good corned beef hash.
Guest from our last episode. Didn't bring any corned beef hash. Maybe next time. And finally, the one and only, that's No Baloney, Joe Mansell.
Penis works as well as cheese.
That sounds about right.
What?
I don't know. If you want to find out how you can get on this list and get all the other cool behind-the-scenes perks that come along with being a patron, you can go to patreon.com/beerbusters. But now, unfortunately, kids, we must settle up our tab.
Say, Yvonne, remember when I said I'd have to send away to NASA to calculate your bar tab?
Oh, yeah. We all had a good laugh, Mo.
The results came back today. You owe me $70 billion.
This episode is brought to you by Vinyl Me Please. Vinyl Me Please is a Record of the Month club. Every month, they feature one album that is essential to the modern vinyl collection. They send it to thousands of members worldwide. As a member, you're going to get features you won't find anywhere else, like bonus tracks, inserts, colored variants, 12x12 exclusive album-inspired art, and even a custom cocktail pairing recipe. They work closely with the label and artist to come up with something you're not going to find anywhere else. Colored vinyl, custom lyric books, and personal notes from the artist. The membership is flexible and will work for you and with you. And they know that trusting someone else with your music can be pretty scary, which is why you can substitute a record of the month with one from the VMP archives. There's no contract, no strings, no guilt trips, and you can cancel at any time, and they don't have any hidden fees, including shipping. Shipping is included with your membership. A couple examples of VMP Artists of the Month include Van Morrison, Queen, Muddy Waters, Beck, Mitski, Arctic Monkeys, Miles Davis, and Weezer. To find out more and sign up today, head over to joinvmp.com/beerbusters. Again, that is joinvmp.com/beerbusters. Well, we since I guess last beer we did kind of a switcheroo by accident. We decided we're gonna re-switcheroo, which I guess is just a roo at that point.
What about Kanga?
I knew you were gonna say that. I actually did.
Wow, that's pretty good. I'm impressed.
Yeah. So Wayne and I are drinking soft and cuddly, and now Steph and Dana are drinking the Panacea. Is that how you say it?
Panacea? Yeah.
Panacea. Panacea.
Panacea.
Panacea.
I like Panacea better.
Panacea.
Sounds like Pinocchio.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Steph.
For the beer is quite superb. I am enjoying it a lot. But we haven't even mentioned the can art, and I know that I'm pretty sure last time we had him on the show, this was just starting the new art. I remember him showing us some of the new art that was coming when they were rebranding, and they are really, really impressive. We just attended an art exhibit at the Goggle Works in Reading. It is IX. Is that the? It's like a fantasy realism art kind of stuff.
Is it just the letters IX?
Or is it the number 9?
That's where I was going. Number 9.
No, I'm pretty sure it's IX.
Number 9.
Yeah, not 9.
Number 9.
You say you want a revolution, you know.
Oh, here. It's imaginative
experience.
Imaginative realism.
Oh, that went not where I thought it was going
to go. I thought you were saying the IX stood for something. Yeah, that's why I thought you were going with it. Interactive exchange. Interleaving X-rays.
God damn it, Moo.
Moo just jumps on the laptop.
So it's the first groundbreaking art show, symposium, and celebration dedicated solely to imaginative realism. It's an annual gathering. It's an entirely unique experience where artists are free to participate in the whatever. Anyway, it's this collection of artists from all over that do this imaginative realism art, which is really, really impressive. everything from inspired by fantasy novels and like World of Warcraft and Star Wars and
Magic the Gathering cards.
Even there was like a Nintendo inspired thing, and then like a lot of skulls and like demon stuff and lots of naked women and just a variety, and everything from like this young kid that was making these tiny sculptures. And so I bought a little skeleton head skull from him. Skeleton head, I'm sucking the
or a
words tonight.
skull, yeah.
What do you call the skeleton head?
The diggy thing you used to eat.
What do you call the thing that carries the airplanes? Anyway, but it was $5, and then you have these people that are selling these paintings for like $25,000. Like, it's such a realm.
Wow.
But it's so fun to look at, and the artists are there, so you get to talk to them and meet them if you care to, and it's just really, really cool. And the different mediums that they choose to present their art and sell their art, everything from like purses and pins and like scarves and like these frames within a frame kind of thing, and like shiny, like, I don't know, it was just like, it was a lot of fun. And we bought alcohol there and walked around and looked at art with drinking alcohol, so that was a fun way. But
I feel like alcohol at an
I
art
don't
show
even
is
know how we
expected
got
these
talking
days.
about this, by the way.
Because you went to the Goggle Works. That's where it started.
So the art
the art on the cans, yes.
kind of is this imaginative realism world that it reminded me of the art that
really
we
cool.
saw there this week.
I Googled it and I went to a website. I don't know if it's the right one, but I was trying to find examples of the art, and there's actually not.
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with what's his name?
Frazette.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
I've been to his museum up in the Lehigh Valley area. He's done, I guess Ron is kind of into this world because a few of his favorite artists have done artwork for like heavy metal albums.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So one of his favorite artists was showing some things there, but I don't know. It's just, I'm very inspired by art, and I love art.
No, this sounds really cool. This is like I follow a bunch of Instagram accounts that are like this kind of like surrealism, fantasy realism kind of thing. I do like that kind of stuff.
Like cool. Fairies and trolls. And
yeah. Like fruit
kind of stuff, but like all that whole sci-fi realm.
Yeah.
And badass naked women kicking ass.
Mm-hmm. That's that Frazetta or whatever. He does a lot of those.
I have a shirt with one of his pieces of art on that I wear quite frequently. And anyone who's local-ish, you can visit the museum. And they also have a costume shop in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. The family owns. Really, really cool stuff. If you've never been to the museum and you're into this kind of art, I highly, highly recommend it. It's cool. Really, really cool. But yeah, and beer cans are more and more becoming pieces of art, and I find myself attracted to cans because of the art that is on there.
Yeah, I mean, we've got various cans and bottles and stuff around that I like to keep because of the artwork. You know? Some of it is really cool, and there are artists that put a lot of time and effort into it.
Well, and that was one thing that was super cool about the Barrel and Flow Fest, which I think we talked about in the last episode. We ordered the virtual box, and each of the cans had artwork from different artists, and many of the cans tagged like the Instagram handle of the artist, or at least put the artist's name on. So that was really cool because we usually talk about the art and notice the art, but we don't always know who did the art. So I was trying to post them all on our Instagram feed, to give them a shout out and post them on our stories. And in turn, we were looking up the handles of the artists and like scrolling through and checking out where they're from and what their rest of their art looks like. And so it was a neat way to become connected to artists that we would have otherwise know nothing about.
What? A picture?
Moose
Do you see this cat?
Moose trying to take Dan's pen. She loves playing with pens.
Jack likes to steal our hair ties.
That makes sense.
I did buy an original piece of art for the tiki bar, which you wouldn't think at this show there would be something that would fit our tiki bar. But there was this one woman, and it was one of the first stands we went to. And I saw this piece of art in this beautiful frame. It's this woman, and there's like hibiscus flowers in the background. And I was thinking about it the whole time. And on the way out, I'm like, you know what? I can afford that. I'm going to buy that piece of art for the tiki bar. So
nice.
That's cool.
Yeah. I'm not sure where we're going to hang it yet, but it's really cool.
In the tiki room.
Oh boy.
Well, this has been fun.
It has. It has. It's been nice kind of getting back to the basics a little bit and just the three of us.
Just remembering whenever the last time we recorded an episode where it was just us, I remember thinking, how are we going to fill the time? Like, what are we going to talk about? And then afterwards being like, obviously it was easy. And I feel the same thing again today.
Yeah, we've known each other literally our entire
At the beginning,
lives.
I was like, what are we going to talk about? How are we going to make a whole episode? And now it's like, oh, we've been talking for an hour and a half, and it's fine.
Yeah, Steph is the only one who's had any time of her life where there weren't one of the two of us in it.
That's true.
And that was only for a month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And then 5 years later, this asshole came along and ruined both of your lives.
Yep.
We just didn't want to realize it yet. Yes, this was fun. Obviously, things can be in flux, and that's just where the world is at these days. So you listening to this, thank you. Thank you for sticking around.
Luckily, we have the capacity for that flux.
Yes.
Like a flux
capacitor, if you will. 1.21 gigawatts. You know the drill. Follow online if you are so inclined. Twitter and Instagram are at BeerBusters. Facebook, we are BeerBusters Podcast. BeerBustersPodcast.com/shop. Get some merch just in time for the holidays. Patreon.com/BeerBusters. YouTube.com/BeerBusters Podcast. TikTok.com/BeerBusters. How does that work? At BeerBusters. Still figuring it out. Still, we got this, though. We got this. I'm going to a beer fest tomorrow. I'll try to tick and or talk.
Yeah, do the talks.
One of them. Well, we again thank you for listening to this. Check out Collusion. We've been drinking their beers. Collusion Tap Works, based out of York. They have multiple locations, right? We'll figure that out. Oh, Jack. Yeah, check out Collusion. Check out, obviously local breweries that you may have and the artwork. Support local art because that is very important. But unfortunately, this does bring us to the end of another episode of Beer Busters. What if I just let it go from here?
I was trying to figure out the
rolling.
seconds in Roman numerals. XXX. Nope, there we go.
Well, that's the easy one to remember.
Yeah, XXV.
Jeez. Well, yes, thank you for listening to this, you out there. Thank you to Jared at Collusion for doing what you do and making these fantastic beers. My name is Dan Baker. I am joined by my co-host and brewologist,
Steph Hefner.
And the demented and fermented
V.
We'll see you next time.
I was a second early. It was actually VI when I said V. I apologize. Will you ever forgive me?
VI, but not IV.